as a result, nobody's going. And I'm not sitting here saying that people aren't doing what God's asked them to do. I don't mean that at all. But there is a great need, in places like Congo, where you know what, there are serious dangers there. Middle East, there are serious dangers. Who wants to go to Iran right now and be a missionary? Yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't kick anybody for having concerns about safety, but somebody needs to go. I just today saw a video about somebody talking about underground churches in Iran are thriving right now, and they're doing amazing. Because in Iran, if you're a Christian, you better be serious. You ain't gonna make it very long. I'm not trying to be political here tonight, but it's just a reality. Somebody's got to go. And here in this part of the world, Congo, I don't have the actual data on this, but I'm sure it's a major contender for one of the more dangerous places in Africa. There's rebel groups, there's an Islamic dimension to it, there's a political dimension to it. And I'm trying to take care of my family and how we do this. But let's just be honest. How's the gospel going to get in if everybody doesn't go there? They all go to the easy place. And what God's put in my heart is, hey, somebody's got to put the hard work in. And you know what? It may be that I spend my whole life getting paperwork so that someone else can come behind me. That may be the case. It's not what I want, but it may be the case. But somebody's got to do that. Somebody's got to build the infrastructure so we can advance the cause of Christ. And that's what my wife and I really are looking at. We're looking at, I think of these old-time missionaries who you think of Stan Dale, if you've ever heard of Stan Dale, if you read Lords of the Earth, it's a really good book. He spent about probably 5 or 6 months trekking into these jungles in the Indonesian islands, trying to find somewhere where he could start a church with these native people. And then when he got there, he had to spend another 5 or 6 months, this is without his family, building an airstrip so that he could get his family there. And then they had to live off the land there, pretty much. And that was the missions. That is how missions used to be in much of the world. There's not much of that left. And that is actually a good thing to a certain extent in one respect. But there's a few places that it's still that way. There are places in Congo that may be that way. And what my wife and I really want to do long term, this may be a decade before we get to this, but we want to get to those places where, hey, you ain't going there on accident. But there's people there. And there are roadblocks. There are groups today, right now, that don't like what I'm trying to do. Because in their mind, if I go to an indigenous people group and I try to share them the gospel, I'm destroying their culture. I'm destroying everything that makes them happy. I'm ruining their lives by giving them Jesus. And there are whole groups that spend their entire life trying to stop people like me from helping them. And let me just tell you something, just give you some data. In cultures like this, infant death rates are 50%. Lifespans are 35. Warring and fighting each other is common practice, and it's part of growing up, and that's how you move forward in the tribe, is by killing people. And I come along and I try to show them Jesus in a better way, and I'm destroying their happiness, and I'm the bad guy. Tell me how that makes sense. And let me just say this, gone are the days when you can just ignore this. Someone will find them. Might be a logger, might be a rebel group. They'll just conscript them all into their service, whether they like it or not. Might be some government somewhere who might just shoot them. Reality. They think they're animals. This is what we're dealing with. So it's not a matter of can we just leave them alone. It's a matter of who's going to get there first. And I'd like the Christians to get there first. Show them a better way of life. That's where we're at. We're trying to do this in a way that is smart. We are trying. I know if I just parachute into the jungle with my family and don't take any kind of steps to get there, that would probably not be a very good idea. But there may be a day when we get into the jungle, and that's what we want to do. But what we're going to start off, we're going to work with Matt Stinsis, who lives in Uganda. We're going to get some training with him and work on language and different things for a little while. And then when we get to kind of our feet under us, we're going to start a church right along the border among a Pygmy tribe that has been removed from the jungle. They are called the Batwa, and they are the group that we found in 2019. And well, we have a longer term vision, but I don't like to make plans too detailed too far out because usually God don't like that very much. But what we'd really like to do is send them in. If we get to where we can hand it over to them, we might go move into the borders of Congo and kind of just keep advancing further and further in and see how far we can get. That's kind of where we're at with that. This tribe, Matt Stensis has been working with them since 2019. He lives 2.5 hours from them. So imagine pastoring this church, a couple other churches, and then pastoring another one somewhere in Dallas. That's kind of what that would be like. It's been very difficult for him, and we're going to try to take over that aspect of his ministry. That is our plan. That's what we're doing. And we appreciate your prayers, if nothing else. Prayer is powerful. We serve a big God. And that's, a lot of what I'm going to be preaching tonight. We're going to be in Acts chapter 7. We tend to think in our, just whether it's on purpose or not, subconsciously even sometimes, we get this idea, because we think so carnally, that our problem is, this big. And, we intellectually know that God is bigger than that, but the way we kind of practice our faith is God's this big to us. The problem's this big, God's that big. And if you ask somebody, well, oh yeah, God's bigger than my problem, but that's not the way you're really behaving or thinking. Very often is the case. But we serve a God that's big enough to get the gospel in the Congo. And he's big enough to keep me safe doing it. He is. And a little bit of prayer goes a long way with that. Acts chapter 7. Stephen is, I wouldn't say necessarily he's on trial, but maybe a Bush justice is going on here. Ever heard that term before? And they're questioning him about their forefathers, Moses. And Stephen's like, you're trying to tell me about Moses. You don't even understand Moses. He talks about Abraham and Joseph and the story of Israel in the beginning. It's so hard when I get up here and preach not to get political about stuff. I'm up here talking about Israel and all this politics coming to my head. I just got to leave it behind me, you know what I'm saying? The Prime Minister of Israel was in the Oval Office. I think it was today. Anyway, we're not going there. All right, the Bible says in verse 20, chapter 7, in which time Moses was born. Right before this, he was laying out Abraham and Joseph and all that. And verse 20 says, in which time Moses was born and was exceeding fair and nourished up in his father's house 3 months. And when he was cast out, Pharaoh's daughter took him up and nourished him for her own son. Hey, if you watch The Prince of Egypt, it's not correct. The Prince of Egypt, it was Pharaoh's wife. They got it all kind of screwed up. That has nothing to do with my message. And Moses, verse 22, and Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was mighty in words and in deeds. God is obviously doing something here. He's preparing Moses. And by the way, reading Egyptian writing is a very not easy thing. Today, I don't know how it was back in then when it was actually used, but today it takes you 10 years to learn to read hieroglyphics. It takes 10 years. I actually did hear that they have multiple forms of writing, but I'm not into all that, so I don't know. And verse 23, and when he was full 40 years old, it came into his heart to visit his brethren, the children of Israel. And seeing one of them suffer wrong, he defended him and avenged him that was oppressed, and smote the Egyptian. For he supposed his brethren would have understood how that God by his hand would deliver them, but they understood not. Now, if you read Exodus chapters 1 through 4, and maybe someone else who's more of a scholar can catch it. I haven't really caught that Moses really knew or had that he was going to be the deliverer at this point. I haven't caught that. And here it says Stephen says Moses is like, it's common sense. I'm going to be the deliverer. And God's told Abraham that your seed will be in a land that is not there for 400 years, and the time is about right. Moses is now in a position, coming into a position of power. I guess you could kind of deduce that. And Moses is like, they should get it. I'm going to be the deliverer. Duh. I sense a little bit of arrogance and pride in this. I sense that. Maybe I'm looking and reading into it. That's what I see. And The Bible says in verse 26, he says, "And the next day he showed himself unto them as they strove, and would have set them one again, saying, Sirs, ye are brethren, why do ye wrong one to another? But he that did his neighbor wrong thrust him away, saying, Who made thee a ruler and a judge over us? Wilt thou kill me as thou didst the Egyptian the other day?" We know kind of what happened. Moses fled into the wilderness. Now, think about this. God, or Moses, and it's, first of all, Moses told them, he's like, I'm going to be the deliverer. And y'all should know that. But then this happens, and he flees into the wilderness, and he's there for 40 years. That was a long time. I'm not even 30 yet. I can't imagine 40 years, extra years. And now he's pushing 80. Somebody's laughing at me like I'm some kid up here. He's probably right. He's now 80 years old. Now, I know people might have lived longer back then, but 80 years old. And God, this is when God comes back to him. That's not a small thing. In Exodus chapter 3, Moses, he sees the burning bush and all that. Now, let's go to verse 30. The Bible says, "And when 40 years were expired, there appeared to him in the wilderness of Mount Sinai an angel of the Lord in a flame of fire in a bush." Now, this intrigues me. Because if this happened to me, I'm just out by myself in a field with sheep, and I walk by this bush that's on fire, it's not being consumed, and it starts talking to me. I don't know about that. I don't know that I would have stuck around very long. Some bush is talking to me. Now, this is what I know, because it doesn't say Moses was afraid. The Bible says, Moses saw it, he wondered at the sight, and as he drew near to behold it, the voice of the Lord came unto him, saying, I am the God of thy fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. Then Moses trembled and durst not behold. Then the Lord said unto him, Put off thy shoes from thy feet, for the place where thou standest is holy ground. Moses isn't scared. There's no indication that Moses is scared. And here's why. I asked the preacher that I'd come up under in Bible college, I said, how do you discern the difference between God's will and God talking to you and the devil trying to get you out of whack? He says, easy. My sheep hear my voice and they know me. And when you look at Moses, God's talking to him. There's a voice coming out of a bush, and Moses isn't scared. Because you can tell when God is involved or when it's not God. Somewhere down inside you know that. And God says, take off your shoes. And, I see this too. Moses, he took off his shoes. And, I don't have a problem with people, sitting down over a cup of coffee and just talking to God. I don't have a problem with that at all. But, we need to get on our face every once in a while. We need to have some real time. We need to acknowledge God's holiness and take that seriously, because God is holy and He expects holiness. We ought to take that seriously. God is not just He's not just your buddy that you can kind of have around to talk to. No, He is God. He created the universe. He spoke this world into existence. He is almighty. He's all holy. He's all powerful. If President Trump come by, I doubt we would treat him like just anybody. Not that he's all that in a bag of chips. Just he's the president of the United States, the most powerful country in the world. He'd probably have a little bit of respect there. Even quite honestly, if Biden come by, he'd probably be that way a little bit while he was president. However you feel about politics. But hey, we should give God the holiness and the respect He deserves. Now, Moses got on his face, and God said, hey, I've seen the affliction of Israel. I've seen what they're dealing with. I've seen what's going on. The time is right, and it's time to get them out of there. Now, 40 years ago, Moses was like, come on, let's go. And Moses messed up or whatever. He killed that man, ran into the wilderness and chewed on that for 40 years. Now, God said, okay, you're going to go back to Pharaoh. And Moses was like, whoa. Wait a minute. I don't know about all that. Moses starts saying, hey, God, I know you told me to do that. But come on, be real here. Like, I'm 80 years old. And that's not what he even said. He said, I can't speak well. If you read the rest of the Pentateuch, by the way, how often do you see Aaron addressing the people? There's a couple times, but most of the time, at least the way it's recorded, it looks like Moses is. Some people say he had a speech impediment. I don't know that. I just think he really didn't want to do it. That's what I think. And God said, hey, I got a solution to your problem. Just go. And Moses, he went a little skittish. But God's like, hey, I got a plan. I just need you to trust me. And, you know, so many times today, God is knocking on somebody's heart. And he's saying, hey, I need you to go somewhere. I need you to do something. I need you to share the gospel. I need you to get my word somewhere where it's dark. I need you to go, and I'm with you. Let's go. And our response is, I don't know about that. Anybody know how old Brother Schnell is? That's a kind of a rude question. I don't know. He's not right out of Bible college. He's on deputation. Hey, God told Moses at 80 years old, go to the mission. Let's go. We got something to do. And this is a big deal. Well, I'm talking hundreds of miles. We're going to travel. We're gonna see nations toppled. We're going to not necessarily go to battle, but it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be an adventure. I want you to go. And Moses, I don't know about all that. I got these sheep. And let me just say, is the sheep more important or is God more important? See, God's with you. See, there's been times in my life where I've started to sit here and wonder, hey, you know what? God, you got me going onto this big adventure here, but my family's going with me. Some of them didn't sign up for this. My kids didn't sign up for this. And you know what God has to tell me? He's like, hey, you know what? I'm bigger than that. I am bigger than your problem. And Moses, here's kind of the thing here. Moses comes into the burning bush. And when he comes into the burning bush, he's making excuses. He doesn't want to go. He's having trouble with this. This is a hard thing. And by the way, missions is not a small thing. Missions is a big deal. And you need to be careful. You need to prepare. And you should take time and pray about making sure God's actually called you, because you ain't really called. I pray for you. I'll do a lot of things for God. I ain't doing it for you. Moses is trying to get he's trying to get his head around this, and God's like, hey, I'm bigger than all that. I'm bigger than your problem. I'm bigger than whatever your excuses are. I'm bigger than whatever you're dealing with. I'm bigger than your age problem. I'm bigger than whatever your physical ailments are. I'm bigger than your lack of faith. So often, so many missionaries quit, and I think the reason why a lot of them quit is because they weren't really sold in the first place. They weren't willing to leave behind what their old life was and what they used to be and say, hey, I'm all in on what God has for me. I'm going to become whatever that is. And whatever it takes, hey, I'm embracing it. I'm like Raging Bull. We're going to go get it. Hey, somewhere along the way, they start thinking about America. I miss all that. I wish I'd go back. And they're like, they got the plow, and they're looking behind them. And they get discouraged because they don't understand the power of God. God's bigger than that. God's bigger than your problems. To date, we have 30 pygmies that have been baptized, that they're at least have made a profession of faith. We got one guy. I was there last April. I just went to him. I said, like, look, listen, dude. Do you want us to come or not? Because here's the truth: if people don't want help, they're not going to get it. I said, do you want us to come? Do you want to start a church? Do you want us to help you? He said, please come. We need you. That's what they said. And now we're on deputation to go. And let me just tell you, at some point along this process, Moses is having this time with God, and excuse me. God is shooting down his excuses, and when there's a point where Moses changes. Moses is not the same when he leaves the burning bush as when he entered. When he entered, he was scared, he was afraid, he didn't want to go back. When he leaves, there's even an indication that his wife ain't totally on board with this. They had some problems in the end. And Moses is like, we're going, get in the wagon, let's go. And they had some problems over that, but they worked through it. And Moses, you ain't going to stop Moses now. Moses is on board. Moses is getting moving. He's going to Pharaoh. He said, Pharaoh, thus saith the Lord, let my people go. Pharaoh laughs. And it looks like he's making it worse. How many times you go to the mission field, you just watch missionaries and talk to them. You go to the mission field trying to make things better, and all of a sudden everything looks like your presence has made it worse. Because as soon as Moses gets there, Pharaoh says, hey, all you Israelis, Hebrews, we're going to double your work. We're not just going to double it. We're not going to give you the tools or the straw or whatever you need to build it either. We're just going to make your life miserable. And they blame Moses. And Moses said, watch. Moses will go down to the river. He stretches that rod out over the river, turns to blood. Now, that's a really creepy thing to me. You read it in the Bible, and it's a book, and we're not really there. But just think about it. All the water in every pitcher, every pot, every river is blood. And there's a red, nasty mess everywhere. Your kids are seeing it. You're getting into it. Who knows, what kind of mess? Dead fish probably everywhere. It's nasty. It's kind of gory. It's disgusting. Hey, this is everywhere. God said, you want to play around? We'll play. We're going to take the gloves off. We're going to go for real. And then the flies came, and the hail comes, and the darkness comes, and the lice comes, and the cattle dies. And this is the greatest country on earth at the time. God said, I ain't playing. Let my people go. And let me just tell you, if God thinks that seriously about you and you're in a mess, if you are that messed up, hey, God will do anything to get you out of there if you're willing to come out. Because God is for you. He is. And God, I just think about this with the pygmies. There's pygmies in the middle of the jungle. They have no hope of salvation unless somebody goes. And God might just send a missionary to get in to brave the storm and parachute in, whatever they got to do to get them the gospel. Because God cares about people. God loves you. He does. And He's big and He's powerful. And Moses keeps coming to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh keeps saying no. And Moses is like, are you really going to keep riding this train? It's not going to end well, but the power of God is strong enough. He's strong enough to get you through your trial, and He's strong enough to take care of you, whatever He called you to do. And there might be somebody in this room today, God has called you to a place that's a little rough. Somebody might be calling to Iran right now. Very soon it might be ripe for the picking, hopefully. Somebody might be called to Jordan or Turkey or one of these other countries over there. And I don't know how all that works in missions. It's not my field. It's hard to get there. It's hard to work there. It is. God could be calling somebody in here today. What's your response? Are you making excuses right now? And there might be, by the way, a time where you really need to evaluate that. I don't want you to go if God didn't call you. Because it makes somebody tickles your ears and it makes you all burdened for it. I mean, necessarily that God's called you. If you ain't called, you're probably going to have a hard time. I definitely wouldn't recommend going somewhere like that if you ain't called. You might just lose your life. But hey, if God called you, He is bigger than Islam. He's bigger than your problem. He's bigger than whatever it is. And Moses finally leads the children of Israel out by that rod in his hand, a symbol of power of God. Now just think about Moses. It's so easy, and I've already said this, it's so easy to read the Bible or read a book, and you just turn the page, and you're just reading this story. But this actually happened, okay? You're really there. And Moses finally, after probably months of all of these plagues, in the greatest country on earth at the time has been toppled by natural disasters, and God has pulled these people out of Egypt, and they're on their way out, and they're rejoicing probably. And then they get to this big, huge Red Sea, and there's an army on this side and water on that side. And it's just like, what in the world? What are you doing, God? See, we read that, and we just kind of glance over that, and then we get into a mess in our own life, and we wonder what God is doing. Hey, what did He do for Moses? He did something pretty amazing. Wall of fire comes up to block the army. I'm just watching that. I'll be amazed to watch that. That's pretty cool. Look at God fighting for me. And that army stopped, and Moses, he walks out on the water with that rod. Now, remember the excuses. God, I can't do all this. And now we see Moses boldly just walking out in the water and stretching out that rod over the water. And there's no indication that he had any second thought about it. He spreads his hand over his rod over the water, and the water split. We hear it in Sunday school. This really happened. And we're watching this water separate, and it's dry in this deep water. And then the children of Israel go walking through it. Now, I think that would just be cool. I want to see the fish swimming in the water while I'm walking through. It's like an aquarium, but it's real. Like that. That's legit. We're seeing the power of God before our eyes. God is taking care of us, and it doesn't even stop there. They all get out of the water. They get to the end of this thing. They get through it, and here comes the army. See, we go through our own trials, and we think, God, why are you doing all this stuff? Hey, God's got a plan. He's doing something. You just can't see it. See, because now they got out of Egypt. They got stopped by the water. The army's come behind them. Okay, God's taking care of us. Great. He put the wall of fire up. Then we get through. Oh, why'd you let the fire down? Army's coming after us now. Do we trust God or not? Is God a big deal to us? Is He big enough to solve our problem? Is He big enough? You really believe that? See, God's got a plan. He's got a reason why He's doing it. The army comes into the water in pursuit of the children of Israel, and we're all watching as God just drops the water on them. They all drowned in the ocean. Now the greatest country in the world has economically been destroyed. Their army is gone. Pharaoh himself is gone. The entire system they had has probably been in ruins now, all because God said, God had to make a point. He said, there's no line I won't cross. There's nothing I won't do for my people. God is for you. God loves you. Why don't we get on board with Him? There's a missionary, I mentioned Stan Dale earlier. The rest of that story, if you want to read the book on it, it's called Lords of the Earth by Don Richardson. Wonderful book. Guy was a tough guy. He grew up in an atheist home. His dad wasn't real nice. And he just kind of logically started coming to the conclusion that there must be something here that's religious in nature. This is probably 20s or 30s. He was a kid. And he, at some point, he got to the point where he went to a tent revival because he was seeking, and he got saved. And his daddy wasn't real happy about that. And that was a big ordeal. And then he started growing up, and he started just on his own. He started trying to read the Bible and discipling himself, so to speak. And World War II breaks out, and he gets conscripted into one of the branches of the military. I don't remember which one. And this guy was into some kind of special forces. I mean, he was the type of guy since he was a kid. If you said something wrong to him, he was gonna bust your teeth out. He was a tough guy, big guy, and as you would expect, when he got in the military, he got on some crazy missions, and they sent him into every kind of hostile territory. I mean, he did some cool stuff. And he's a Christian, by the way, remember. And he went out into the Indonesian islands on a mission. And before this, he had tried to go on, he had been up to go for several other missions, and they had fallen through at the last minute. Somebody got reassigned or something. And the guys that went on those missions didn't come back. And this was kind of weighing on him. And he goes on this mission. He's out there in these Indonesian islands area, Irian Jaya stuff. These guys, these people out there are cannibals, indigenous people groups. And he's doing this stuff for Uncle Sam, and he sees these people groups out there that are eating people and are crazy, and there's nobody that's working with them in any capacity. There's definitely no gospel. There's nothing. It's just these people that are completely ignorant of truth and civilization. And if someone doesn't go reach them, they will die and go to hell. And he thought, well, if I survive through the rest of the war, maybe I'll go. Sure enough, he did survive the war. When he got out, he said, you know what, I'm going to go to them people on them islands. And he went, and he like I said earlier, he spent over almost a year just getting the airstrip and everything so his family can come. His family came, and they lived in dirt floors in this little mud hut in the middle of some jungle on some island in Indonesia, one of these Indonesian islands. There's hundreds of them, might be thousands of them. And he did well. I'm shortening the story a lot. There's the whole book. You know, he had a hard time with people. He wasn't a people person. You know, but we're not going to get into that. But he got to where he had built a church. And he was working with these people, and these people loved him. And by the way, the only reason he was able to do that is because there was some kind of paganistic prophecy that kept them from just killing him on sight. And when they were there for a while, he showed them a better way. And they started to realize, hey, what? I don't know what in the world we believed before you came, but this is way better. And he made some good headway. And he got to the point where he's like, you know what? We've done good here, but there's hundreds of other tribes. We got to expand. We got to do something. Reach these other people. So he decided to take some of his guys and go out and find these other people. And so now, some of these pagan beliefs over here were kind of spread amongst many tribes in this area. It was pretty unanimous that we all kind of understand this is the way it is, as far as some of these pagan beliefs. And so these other tribes saw what happened here, and they said, this guy destroyed everything that we used to be. And we cannot allow that to happen to us. That's what they said. And it wasn't quite as simple as that. There was some controversy about it. But they didn't like what he was doing. And when Standale went out to go find some other tribes, he started to encounter some resistance. And twice, I think, he came back with arrows in him, narrowly escaping death. And you don't want to get an arrow from these guys. They poison them. They do all kinds of stuff. He went on one final out trip trying to find these people and maybe setting something up. He just wanted to reach them with the gospel so bad. And he went there, and at some point in this journey, they find out that they are kind of being hunted by these people. And so they start trying to get back to safety, and they're booking it. They're trying to escape these pagan people that are after them. And at one point, they could have cut a bridge down that would have stopped them from following. And Standale said, you know, we could do that, and it would work. But if I do that, and I destroy their property, whoever comes behind me to do missions will not have any success. So he wouldn't do it. They kept going. Now, according to some of these pagan beliefs, they believed that if you had stood on certain sections of real estate, that you were supposed to be protected by some kind of deity. And there's a lot that goes into that. And some of his guys that were with him told him, he's like, hey, we can use this to our advantage. We could just stand over here, and they won't shoot at us. And he said, well, if I do that, I will reaffirm everything they believe and act like it's real, and nobody will be able to reach them with the gospel because I've just validated everything they believe. So they kept going. Eventually, they got bottlenecked to a choke point, and let's just say he didn't make it out. Missionary didn't make it out. There were funerals. It was pretty rough. And that's not the end of the story, though. See, God had a plan. And if this didn't happen, the rest of the plan wouldn't have worked. Because after that, there was this big controversy in the tribe, and people thought that maybe they shouldn't have done this. Maybe what he was saying is correct. Maybe it's not. Some people said it's absolute heresy. We can't allow this. And this big fight about this. And other missionaries in the area got involved, and we were trying to stabilize the situation. Now, this is for years this is going on. And a plane crashed. You know, this was a rough time in missions. It's time of the world. It used to be a lot harder to do missions than it is today. This is the easiest time in history to do missions. Okay, a whole family of missionaries crashed in a plane. One of the little kids survived. He climbed out the tail of the plane. He gets out, and he's running for his life, and he goes sitting on a rock somewhere, and this native guy walks up and takes him to his village. And he feeds him, and he clothes him, and he gives him everything that he needs. And they don't speak the same language, and it's a little weird. But he does that, and this guy belonged to that same tribe. Now, the common practice is if you see a white man, they die. That's the common practice. This little kid, he took him into his own home, and when other people came and they tried to fight him about this, he said, "No, we're gonna make sure this guy lives." And he took care of him and eventually delivered him back to civilized people. And then years later, a missionary family said, "We're going to go to this people group. We're going to reach them. We're going to go back." And they went to this tribe, and when they got there, they were welcomed with open arms. And they shared the gospel with them, and the entire tribe came to Christ. Because they said, "Hey, we did something wrong. What we did was not right, and God's judgment is on us for that, and we can't go on like this anymore." And that whole tribe came to Christ, and that man, he said, there was a young boy that came to this tribe years ago. What happened to him? They did some research, and he was alive and well, grown man. And let me just tell you, hey, some things don't make sense. Sometimes it doesn't work out the way you want it to. Sometimes it is hard. Sometimes bad things happen. Sometimes you get sick on the mission field. Sometimes it gets bad. Sometimes it gets ugly. I know somebody just recently in Uganda that lost their life. It was awful. Hey, that is the reality sometimes. But hey, God is bigger than your problem. Hey, when you sign up for war, you know what the potential cost is. We have men that will line up out the door for Uncle Sam in the enlistment offices. And right now under Trump, it's through the roof. There's people that are signing up to join the Army, military, Marines, whatever it is. They'll do that all day. They want an adventure. We'll go fight for this country. We'll do it. Hey, God needs an army. Some of these places in this world, we need an army of missionaries to get in there. We need people that will be serious and will put their life on the front lines for Christ if he asks. We'll do it for Uncle Sam. Will we do it for God? Will we? If God said, "I want you to go to the front lines," will we do it? Is that serious? We need to think about this like it really is a war, because it is. People are dying and going to hell. We're not talking about 70 years. We're talking about heaven and hell. Are we going to be serious enough about getting the gospel to these people that we will put our life on the line for it? Because that's what's necessary in some cases. Someone needs to go. Who's going to do it? I want to do it. Who's going to join me? Lord, I thank you for this time today. Pray that you bless it. Pray that you'd use it. I pray that you'd help something good to come out of it, Lord. I pray the fruit there would remain. I pray we get some missionaries to go to the field. Thank you for all that you do, Lord. I pray, Lord, amen.
All right, let's stand. What page, Brother Daniel?